good afternoon. Thanks to IMA for organizing the session on technology in higher education, the elephant in the room. Thank you for inviting me to moderate this panel discussion, and I'm honored. And it's also a great privilege to have my esteemed colleagues from EdTech industry to be part of the discussion. We all acknowledge the existence of the elephant. Our focus today will be to see the big animal from different angles, and it's a royal animal. In the last 2 years of pandemic, we have seen an unprecedented growth of technology in education sector. In 1 or 2 weeks notice, classrooms across the countries went digital. Pandemic pushed us to education 4.0. It is all about extending equal access to knowledge for every student using digital tools. Industry leaders like L&T and my esteemed panelists on this platform have come forward in lending their experience using digital technologies as part of the disruption. National Education Policy 2020 also addresses the issues of equality, access, and opportunity by making online and digital education a major pillar in the higher education. Government is also talking about policies about how to conduct 100% of the classes using digital media with online assessment, proctoring, evaluation, and many other things. And with this backdrop, I'll come to each of my colleagues and will ask you a few questions to gather your thoughts. And before I proceed with the moderation and coming to you, there are some ground rule. Each one of you will be getting 7 to 8 minutes to share your thoughts and views about some of the big questions that I'll be putting in front of you. And if you can save some time, we'll also take a few questions from the audience. With that, I'll be going to Swami, the global head of TCS ION. Swami, great to have you here. And you have been working with government in education sector for quite some time now. So I definitely would like to gather your thoughts for everyone on this meeting about NEP, the National Education Policy, and in the context of the digital education. Number one, if you also can share your ideas, thoughts, it is more about your perspective. What may come as a challenge while we are going to implement the NEP goals for higher education? And maybe while you are talking about it, if you also can help us out with your wisdom. Do you foresee any kind of setbacks when you go for fully online programs? How the industries are going to take it forward? How do we really coach the industry also to acknowledge that there is a need of digital education? And how can we really make it bigger and can make sure the divide that we have between haves and not so good in terms of their ability to reach out to a great school, we are being able to bridge that gap in a big way. Over to you, Swami. Looking forward to hear from you.
Thank you, and good afternoon to all of you. Great opportunity to share some of the thoughts. Mr. Sachi has put a lot of questions. I don't know whether I can cover all of them in 5 to 6 minutes, and many of them are very large questions. But I just thought I will quickly share some thoughts on these questions. Let me see whether I can share my screen. Okay, so I'm a Teams user. It's okay. I will quickly share some of the thoughts. First of all, NEP, as I've always been saying, it's a dream NEP. There are many points in the NEP which are all in the right direction. I was thinking about this topic of elephant in the room. I said it's actually elephant in the classroom. And there are many different challenges that the institutions, tech companies face today. But if I have to point out to a few challenges, the acceptance of all these challenges is a beginning cycle, in my opinion. We have been waiting for long. The pandemic has definitely accelerated the change, as Mr. Das mentioned. But linkage of the industry to the academic, I feel, has been a biggest takeaway because the academic institutions, with the help of EdTech today, has been able to get closer to the industry. And that's one important challenge that is getting addressed effectively. Assessments is another big challenge. We in TCS has been focused deeply on this aspect. The execution complexity, the organized malpractices in the country, all of them has been putting enormous amount of challenges. It's a great opportunity for tech companies to address that. The third one is on the learning space, the evolving curriculum, the lack of experiential learning today. These are some of the aspects I would still say a long way to go, opens up a big opportunity for tech companies. And the operations in terms of managing data, in terms of ensuring that there is a 360-degree view of the stakeholders. These are some of the big challenges, and many institutes of higher education today, I believe, lack the right technology platform and resources to capitalize on NEP, to take advantage of some of the recent UGC reforms in the higher education and in other aspects of the education. So I believe with that background, if I can spend a minute on each one of these areas, the learning, the opportunity to reach out to tier 3, tier 4 cities has been accelerated because of the edtech companies' ability to create very, very sophisticated technology. I believe has not still been largely leveraged by the academic institution, and that's a great opportunity, in my opinion. And also some of the technologies in the AI ML side to make learning more personalized leaves a huge gap today. Contextual applications that we can bring in through some of the hands-on platforms, still the industry as well as the academic institutions believe that there is a gap in terms of candidates getting the hands-on experience, and today's platforms still have gaps on that, which is partially true, and we need to focus on that. So creating an ecosystem of platforms that institutions can leverage for making the learning a lot more effective than today, I believe is a great opportunity. On the assessment, one maybe a couple of important things that I'll point out. One is, how do we take assessments? How do we make assessments a lot more inclusive today? How do you ensure that some of the infrastructure gaps that we have in tier 3, tier 4 cities in terms of stability of networks, all can be absorbed by technology in order to give a seamless experience? That's a big gap. And the other thing is to eliminate the impersonation, the malpractices, leveraging the power of AI and ML, making sure that the data is secured, there are no leakages. Many of those challenges today, technology and today's platforms have made significant strides. Leveraging them will be very, very critical to make sure that we make progress on this. On the operational side, again, bunch of opportunities in the analytics space in order to ensure that the candidates get a seamless view right from what to learn that, in order to, after learning, make sure that they have a right certification, moving them to readiness for the jobs, and making sure that they have access to the jobs, ensuring that this whole cycle is seamless across platforms is going to be a big need in the market. I believe that this is a great opportunity for many organizations in the edtech space. So those are some of the thoughts. It's very critical that we link the outcome. It's going to be extremely important for us to use this opportunity to bring the academia and industry much more closer and make it almost real time, so that we don't run events like academia industry events, but it really becomes a daily affair for institutions, edtech companies work together in order to address the requirements. Those are initial thoughts to your questions.
Thank you so much, Swami. Thank you so much. And it's so insightful. And I fully agree to your point on assessment and all the points, by the way. Okay, but assessment, how do we really beat the market in a sense? Students are students, right? When you are going for online assessment, they are also thinking through many of the tricks. I don't blame them, but we need to be smarter. I'm fully with you. And we need to make sure that we are being able to, we are able to evaluate the students in the right manner, and we stay ahead in the game. So thank you so much for the insights. I'll come back to you again, Swami. Now, Raghav. Raghav is the managing director of India and Asia Pacific at Coursera. Raghav, great to have you here. And you are in the edtech space for almost a decade, if I'm not wrong. And in today's world, we can actually learn what we want to learn if we have the desire and the connection, and the connection. Now, with the digital economy, the digital intrusion in the education space, a lot of great things are happening in the industry and in the education space altogether. Now, if you can share your views, like in rural India, okay, how ready they are in terms of the latest innovation and then grabbing the benefit of that. Because in many of the remote areas in the country today, the students, they still don't have access to cell phone, the right kind of bandwidth. So are we creating a digital divide between the students, like who are in the urban area versus in the rural area? Your thoughts, please.
Sure. Thank you, Sabyasachi. Happy to cover that, and also absolute pleasure to be here. Good to see Mayank and Mohan and Swami again, and absolute pleasure to be here at this particular event. I have a quick short set of slides that I'm going to use, and in the next 7-8 minutes, like you kind of asked us to share some of my thoughts and also hopefully answer some of the questions you posed. If you could just confirm this is visible. Wonderful. Thank you. So I'll try and be quick so that we leave some time for conversation as well. So this is a slide we look at a lot at Coursera, right? It says low-skilled, repetitive jobs are at risk of automation. All of us are experiencing this around us, right? On the x-axis, these are, if you're on the right-hand side, these are jobs at higher risk of automation. So waiters, cashiers, real estate brokers, accountants, and so on and so forth. And on the left-hand side, on the top, financial managers, general managers, lawyers, IT managers, typically higher skilled jobs are where we are seeing lesser automation happening. And as one can imagine, a lot of folks who are losing jobs are wanting to get the knowledge, the digital skills, the credentials to shift towards the top left. Now, what is amazing is this is a pre-pandemic study. This is a study from 2017 that McKinsey and Oxford University did, where automation was already having this impact on jobs. And as all of us have experienced in India in the last 2 years or so, almost every company has said that they are accelerating their digitization. They are going more digital. They are adopting technology more and more and more. So what we were saying pre-pandemic has accelerated quite significantly when it comes to working professionals and the industry. And we're seeing around us that this automation that was happening on the previous slide has been accelerated by COVID. And it's resulting in millions of jobs displaced around the world. This is not just India. So 85 million jobs likely to get lost because of technology around the world. Companies are telling us core skills are changing. And also, companies like mine and possibly yours as well are saying, look, even though the pandemic will go away, many of us will continue working from home. And I am in office today, but I've spent a lot of time working from home, even while our offices are open. And then, like I said, companies are digitizing as well, right? So on one side, we are seeing lots of job losses because of technology, but on the other side, we're also seeing World Economic Forum and Microsoft and others are talking about almost 150 million jobs that will get created, which require digital skills. And the list on the left-hand side is not surprising. So whether it is data or IT or digital marketing or topics like that. And then a Microsoft study says, look, between now and 2025, in the next 3 years, 150 million jobs will get created, 15 crore jobs, of which 30 million, 28 million will be in India, right? And so that's the context around us from what's been happening in industry. And I know Mr. Pai spoke about some of this, and I saw a little bit of Shiv Kumar speak to some of this as well earlier. And as all of us are familiar, right, when you look at India and other large countries, we have a big challenge in terms of access to higher education, whether it's the gross enrollment ratio or it's the quality of education. So job losses in traditional industries, lots of job creation because of technology in new age industries, and a challenging environment when it comes to higher education. And in that context, let me quickly share what we've seen in terms of progress of online education from a Coursera context in the last 2 years and what some of the promise might look like, right? So this is what the Coursera ecosystem looks like. There are learners, educators, and institutions on our platform, 90 million globally, 15 million, 12.5 million in India, so large platform. What is taught on the platform comes from universities and companies, and also institutions, businesses, governments, and campuses learn and train their employees on the Coursera platform. From today's events context, Coursera for Campus is what we take to campuses. About 3,200 campuses around the world, 1,100 campuses in India leverage Coursera for Campus for teaching their faculty and their students. And what they take to these individuals, it looks a little bit like this. So there are short projects, 2 hours, there are courses and specializations, and it goes into certificates, and eventually it goes into full-fledged degrees as well. And you can come and take a bachelor's or a master's on the Coursera platform. So it stacks up depending on whether you're a working professional, you want to learn pivot tables in Excel, you can come and do a 2-hour project, or you can come and do a full master's on Coursera as well. Now, given this platform, what we've seen in India is, firstly, of course, there's been massive growth, right? It's our second largest market after the US. 12.5 million people in India learn on Coursera, about 1.5 crore. And massive growth. A lot of people came to Coursera in India to learn on the platform in the last 2 years. And if I double click on this a little bit, of course, young age, lots of women learning on the platform, and a lot of this learning is on a mobile device. So to your question around access, this hopefully is enabling some of that. But what we saw interestingly is a lot of women moved out of the workforce during the pandemic because of pressures at home. But the number of women learning on the Coursera platform during the pandemic went up. And the left-hand side is global, the right-hand side is India. So about 25, 26% pre-pandemic to closer to 35, 36% during the pandemic. So we saw that, which was, I thought, a positive sign. And then also, we've always had a challenge of women in STEM in India, in general, around the world as well, but in India specifically as well. And we saw that shift up as well from 22% women to 32% women learning STEM topics on the Coursera platform. So a good shift there. We also saw, of these 12.5 million learners, obviously a lot of them come from the larger states. So from Delhi, NCR, Maharashtra, and so on and so forth. But what was interesting is that from larger states, which typically have not seen a lot of adoption of online, so Bihar and Kerala, massive growth in terms of the adoption, and even smaller states, Nagaland, Manipur, and Andamans, increasing the adoption of online learning. So it gave us a sense that access is getting out there to a lot of these parts of the country as well. And then the other thing that we did was, because a lot of these people are not able to come and pay for these courses, is we made a lot of scholarships and enrollments available. So, almost 2.5 million enrollments were supported with financial aid. And then we partnered up with Microsoft and IBM to launch other scholarships that were very, very well received in the market as well, and in the country as well. The other thing that we've done is Coursera has traditionally had a lot of international universities and companies author content on our platform. And over the last year and a half, we've been working on getting Indian leading universities to come onto our platform. And this has all happened in the last year and a half or so. So I'm Calcutta, Kozhikode, IIT Roorkee, IIT Guwahati, IIT Bombay, ISB, Ashoka, OP Jindal are now authoring short courses all the way to degrees on the Coursera platform. And as a part of the NEP's adoption of technology and also internationalization of higher education, we are taking a lot of this top tier Indian education to learners on our platform around the world as well. Almost half of the enrollments that we're getting on many of these programs are coming from learners outside of India as well, which is really, really been positive to see. And then very quickly, in Coursera for Business, where we work with businesses, campuses, and governments, here's what we are seeing. Businesses are telling us, look, we want you to help us accelerate talent outcomes with measurable skill development. And we want to launch skills first learning program, right? So a bank is saying, look, I used to have business analysts, but now I need data analysts. How do I make that happen? And we're enabling some of that. Campuses from today's context are focused on student employability. How do you get students ready for this new world of work, and also for faculty development? And like I said, 1,100 campuses are currently leveraging this platform. And then various state governments are very concerned about closing the digital skills gap, because there's been massive unemployment in many, many states. And we are partnering with Tamil Nadu and Kerala and Uttar Pradesh and Odisha and so on to help them reduce some of these skill gaps as well. So that's a little bit of what we are seeing. I'm conscious I'm at 8 minutes, so 1 minute over. So I'll stop with that and hand back to you. Thank you
so much. Thank you so much, Raghav. And I'll come back if the time permits. And I'm coming to Mohan, the co-founder and CEO of Great Learning. And great to have you here, Mohan. But I'm not able to see you on the screen.
Can you see me now?
Yes, I can. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Sabyasachi.
Thank you. So, Mohan, I have 1 or 2 questions, and definitely you have 7-8 minutes to cover your thoughts. So, one thing, once the pandemic is over, how the digital ecosystem and the offline, the classes, the real classes in the universities, it is going to coexist. Do you happen to see a slowdown in the online education and the adoption? Because there had been a significant growth on the online education in the last 2 years. One question, and when you are talking about a blended or a fully online model, what's your view? Do you think, in the higher education, when the students used to come together in the college, they used to rediscover themselves. And it's all about, and we have seen it in the past when there was no online education, right? They used to learn the life skills. And what's your view? What students need to do, what the education system, even the online service provider, as well as the universities, we can actually embrace the best of every world. Any thoughts from your side? And I know that I have asked many questions to both Raghav and Swami. If you want to take a clue from some of the things you would like to cover, please feel free. Over to you.
Yeah. Thank you, Sabyasachi. I will answer the 2 questions that you asked me in the context of, kind of a broader view that I wanted to share. So when we talk about, technology in higher education, I think it's pertinent to actually take a step back and see, like, what do we mean by that, right? We talk about digitization, we talk about transformation, we talk about disruption. So, I think it will be helpful, if we talk about that a little bit more concretely, right? So otherwise, we can, it can be very vague. So like in other industries, digitization in higher education has been happening for a long time. It's not a new thing. Okay, so when you and I went to college, as probably most of others, we used to learn, we used to write in notebooks. The professors used to show slides that were, the plastic ones that they used to put on overhead projectors, right? So we saw content go digital, right? Everybody moved to, PowerPoint and videos and simulations and, lab software, all of that. So content went digital. Similarly, processes in higher education have been going digital for many years now, at least 2 decades. Right? Earlier, everything used to be manual, paper, so you saw academic institutions adopting various technology solutions, whether it is student information systems, attendance tracking, going online with admissions, using an LMS to distribute content, using technology for tracking placements, for taking student feedback, for doing faculty performance reviews, for tracking research output, for using an ERP to automate and track operations. right? So like in any other industry, this has also been happening, so there's nothing kind of new or really revolutionary there. It's been happening in higher education. And of course, the pandemic actually showed who had that and who hadn't had that, and people who had digitized coped with it better, and people who hadn't digitized suffered more, right? And therefore, the push towards more accelerated digitization. So, but other than digitization of the processes and digitization of content, what we are seeing in the last few years is digitization of education itself, overall education experience, which is basically the teaching learning process, the engagement process. That's really what is the new disruption that has happened. Till then it is all incremental, digitization and transformation. So what are we seeing now? Now we are actually seeing that there is complete transformation of education experience, teaching, learning happening online. Students completing an entire course of education without ever meeting in person, right? So those were things that were not happening earlier. That's what is really changed. And here there is a lot of learnings that are coming from the professional education segment. So professional continuing education is the one that went online first, right? Because the stakes are relatively lower there. It is not regulated, and therefore it could be more agile. It could move faster. It could adopt and embrace technology faster. So that's what went first. Now, with the help of transformations that are happening even in regulatory, in the regulatory world, you're having the entire experience go online. Few things have happened because of that. One, you actually now have hybrid learning models that are becoming accessible and available. You're having flipped learning models, that are actually becoming available now. You're having completely online models, that are becoming available now. Geographic boundaries are falling away because of that increasing access, right? So now it doesn't matter where the institution or the provider of education is and where the consumer of education is, right? So geographic boundaries have actually fallen off. It is also because technology provides certain inherent advantages, we are able to lower the cost of education as well. Okay, so our keynote speaker spoke about this earlier, and so I think that's an extremely important point. Costs have come down, access has increased. Raghav just showed people consuming content from all parts of the world, remote part of India as well, remote parts included, right? So access has increased, but it has also meant that competition has grown, right? What used to earlier otherwise be a very regional competition among peers that are located in a similar area, now they are having to compete on a much wider canvas, national canvas as well as international canvas as well. And what that also does is it actually puts pressure on quality, right? When your competition increases, you have to actually get better. You have to have higher quality as well. Yeah. But the other big advantage that has happened is because of now things happening online, and because technology is getting used more, we're actually getting more visibility into the education process as well. Earlier, the teaching learning process, when it was offline, there's basically very little visibility that happens into what is happening. The only mechanism for us to know if a student is learning or not is through assessments. Okay. And typically assessments that happen like, a couple of times in a semester, once in the middle of the semester, once at the end of the semester. Right now, because things of the entire process happening online, we can actually get a visibility into the learning process all through the learning journey, right? So that's another big change that has happened. So what I've just described, all of this is the disruption that is happening. These are the changes that have happened in the last few years. And I do believe that while they will of course be used in online education, there are many good ideas and good value that has been discovered that will actually be used on-campus learning as well. Okay, so many things that I spoke about can actually benefit on-campus learning as well, and that is what is what should happen, which is that existing even traditional institutions can actually take advantage of the benefits provided by technology in traditional education. Okay, and just like we spoke about the benefits of traditional education in terms of their signaling value, in terms of the brand value, in terms of the club that it creates, and that so while you retain all of those advantages, and that is required, and to your point, the foundational life skills, I think those are very difficult to to inculcate those in an online setting, right? So those will still be the preview of traditional education, where you come together, you go through life experiences together. So you can retain all of that in your traditional education, but bring in the advantages that have been discovered in online education. A few other implications of what has changed. One is that the definition of what is higher education is also changing now, right? So earlier higher education would be undergraduate education, postgraduate education, and potentially doctoral education, right? This is basically what we historically viewed as higher education. Now this is getting dispersed, right? So higher education is suddenly moving from being just something that you do as postgraduate to all through your life, right? It's getting dispersed. You may not just do higher education when you finish, right? So it's called lifelong education, professional education, continuing education. There are different names to it. Is that higher education or is that not higher education, right? So that's where the definitions have become amorphous. The dispersion is also happening in the form of credentials, alternative credentials, right? So, Raghav showed a stack of different kinds of learning experiences that you can have. Similarly, there are, learning that people are having directly from experts and from influencers in different areas. There are micro credentials that have emerged, right? So there is dispersion happening in time as to when a learner will learn. There is dispersion happening in terms of how they learn, what are the mechanisms they learn, and there is dispersion happening in the credential that they get when they learn something. That's at the postgraduate level. Going forward, this could happen at the undergraduate level as well, right? Which is that, once you have these recognized banks of credits and where credits can actually be transferred across, universities, and there is a credible transfer mechanism that's there, you can actually see people taking much longer to complete an undergraduate degree, right? They can actually do something at some point, work for some time, do something at another point, and then string together what is a traditional degree in a much longer period of time. So UG education can get dispersed as well. So these are some of the implications of the possibilities created by technology, and these are also the disruptions that are created by technology.
Right? Thanks, Mohan. And I'm fully with you, because the more and more days to come, I think technology is going to play a significant role in our education. And one other thing, the good sign is, to your point, there are many competitors who are actually coming and trying to help the students. And in my view, it is good for India, it is good for the students, because ultimate goal for each one of us is to reach out to the students and to help them to get better equipped to perform in their job and to write their own frames in their own way. And that's the best thing that is happening in India today. And technology is bringing down the cost of education. That's also another one, and anybody can have access. Probably we need to work a little bit on our infrastructure side, and I'm sure that what is not possible today, it is going to come in your way tomorrow. Thanks once again for all the insights, Mohan. I'm going to Mayank, the co-founder and MD of Upgrad. Hey, Mayank, great to see you. So great discussions from all the keynote speakers and from all the panelists. So a couple of things, Mayank, I would like to understand from you a little bit of futuristic view of EdTech. Because if you really happen to see the way technology is transforming, I'm sure that will also evolve, because the kind of feedback we are receiving from the market, all of us will change over a period of time. So what's your view in terms of how the EdTech companies are going to evolve in 2030s or maybe going forward? If you really would like to take a futuristic view, over to you. And then maybe another question, let me put it together so that you can answer it in one go. I think Raghav spoke about it, Mayank spoke about it, and Swami also spoke during the conversation. I think many of the learnings, it is getting personalized. And like I will learn as much I want to, and then there are courses available, content available. EdTech companies are enabling us to learn as I want to learn. Do you see that is the future of education going forward, that it is going to become more personalized learning than a set of courses, set of bouquet, and you need to cover everything? What's your view?
Sure, no, thanks, Sabyasachi. And it's difficult to follow up after almost everything to do with EdTech and education has been covered by Swami, Raghav, and Mohan. So I'll try to fill up whatever I can. So that's why Thank you for giving me an easier question of what 2030 will look like. Had I known, I would have been sitting in a very different place altogether.
Give me a treat
Yeah.
when we see each other.
Yes.
I'm in your town or you are in my town.
Absolutely. Now, I would say maybe for me, just a few things that definitely come to my mind, because we always, while we are, while running a business every day, you feel that it's the worst decision that you took of starting something because everything is breaking down. But in the evening, you definitely are forced to think about what 2030 will look like. And on that note, I just feel maybe picking up on what everybody else said, I'll maybe pick up 6-7 things that I definitely feel what future will entail. First one that genuinely comes to mind to what Mohan said, that look, education is getting online. And I also feel that in today's context, outcomes are going online. And that's something that we saw. The first wave was all about access, then it moved towards completion rates, and now actually people are delivering outcomes online. And I do believe that future is going to be a lot about outcomes, and people will measure outcomes very, very rigorously in the education space. It has already started, so it's nothing. I mean, it's not that it's completely going to be new, but outcomes will become ever more pervasive in the future. Second, I feel personally that that concept of one and done, that by 23, 26, 27, you should be done with your education. And again, Raghav touched upon this lifelong learning concept, and people will continue to learn on an ongoing basis. My personal belief is, this is how I foresee that education will become like flight travel, that every 7 days or 8 days or once in a month, you are taking up a flight to travel from one place to another. You will take up a new program as pervasive as what travel is, or as pervasive as what telecom is, etc. today, because education will be required on an ongoing basis and not just as an event in somebody's life and somebody's career journey at one point of time. The third thing which I believe education will get impacted quite significantly is this human touch-led engine. And I do believe that Swami did talk about a lot of technology intervention that is coming in. And one of the things that he touched upon, that how technology can drive a lot of human interventions. And as we scale up in the future, whether it is coaching, whether it is mentoring, whether it is hand-holding or touch, which today I think slowly is coming into education, but it will become far more critical as we look at the future, because technology will actually bring in teachers online. Technology will not bring in content online. I think the first phase that happened, which was a lot about making content accessible, will end up bringing teachers online and getting the teaching community online. Education will also, my fourth big theme, a mega trend, is going to be around communities, that people will learn in communities or people will grow in communities, and you will see multiple communities getting formed within education. What we are seeing in social media in some format will start happening in education, and community actually leads towards outcomes much better. I mean, the communities that work really well, that have got common outcomes or common goals. I mean, a marathon community works. Somebody who's applying for management education, that community works. If there's a certain specific goal in mind, communities will come together and will engage and move forward much, much faster. The last 2 points, the fifth and sixth one for me, is we'll move a lot more from hard to soft. And I know I don't like the word soft skill. I would rather call it power skills or something else. But there is a lot of focus today on hard skills, and that's the first thing that goes online, and which is the right thing to happen. But as we move towards in the future, you will see a lot of softer aspect getting taught online, whether it is leadership, whether it is coaching, whether it is communication, negotiation and stuff, which is already happening, but it will start happening with practical applications going forward. And the last one, which will perhaps give me a segue to come to the personalization point, is having individual having their own knowledge profile or skill profile built in with a lot of data coming in. Because a lot of data will get generated, a lot of data will get captured, a lot of data will get, people will take informed decision that you will have your own knowledge passport or skill passport, such that when you go for the next job interview, before giving out the visa for you to join the organization, people will check your skill passport, whether you have the right credentials to come in or cannot not come in. And I think that sets the foundation. And those are the 5-6 things that I do believe the future will hold and future will entail. But coming to personalized education, and I'm coming back to 2022 and not 2030. I personally, Sabyasachi, I'm not a very big fan of personalized learning, because I believe it's a very, very complicated problem, and sometimes it gets taken a little bit more casually in certain places. But I was doing some study, and I realized that even to study a class 5 mathematics or class 3 mathematics, there are about 1 billion ways in which a learner can learn. And therefore, mapping that using data with standardized data for those many learners and making 1 billion plus path for one grade is a very, very tough problem, because we don't have enough data points if we truly want to solve for personalized education. What I do believe will happen in maybe 2 to 3 phases as we look at building the skill passport. I think number one is from personalized education. The first wave that will start is personalized support. With a lot of data, what kind of support can be offered to different kind of learners? Because support is productized, and personalized information will give you what kind of products, what kind of support that we can offer to a particular learner. The second phase that will happen from personalized support will get to personalized content and personalized content consumption. While I do like the concept of what Netflix suggests, what you should watch, I sometimes believe there is no relationship between one movie to the next movie that they are recommending. It is just a better way of saying this is what Gods want to watch, and therefore they just put an AI. So I've started realizing that AI is a good term to put if you want your consumer to do something. You can just tell them AI recommended you doing this. But at the right time, I do believe personalized content will come in as part of how people will watch one content to another content to third content. And I think then once the personalized support and personalized content consumption comes together, is when I truly believe personalized education will come into play. When you know what support to come at what time and what content to be pushed out. It's going to take time. I think we are in a very early stage. School education is much better place to start with personalized content, while adult learning and working professionals are better place to start with personalized support. But if we start with those two themes, I do believe that not today, not tomorrow, but in the next 5-6 years, personalized education will start forming a better shape. Today, I'm a biggest detractor, but I'm hoping that in the next 5 years, I become the biggest promoter of this phenomena.
Now, thank you so much, Mayank. Many of the things that you're talking, I think we need to handle them as we go along. And I already have started receiving few questions on the chat box. But Swami, before I go in there, what Mayank was talking, like the skill passport, that is already happening. Almost everybody, whoever is going for an interview, already know who is coming to you, their profile, what kind of certification they already have. You don't refer to those paper CVs anymore, right? It is in front of you, and you just base your question based on that. Now, one question before as I said, going into the question that I have received on the chat window, this personalized learning. Do you think today many a times we are forced to learn even if you don't want to learn something? And the personalized learning, if it ever takes a shape, will be ignoring a significant portion of learning which is being entrusted to us and we are forced to do. But in case of personal learning, we'll have a choice to make. What's your view?
Very true, Sachi, but I'm going to take 30 seconds to extend one interesting thing to what Mayank said on the future, if you allow me. This is a conversation with a couple of young higher education students I was having a few months back. And look at the way they look at the future, the technology in higher education. This student is asking, is there a way by which you can give me a chip that can be implanted in our body that has got all the things that is required, and it is completely integrated with the brain system, and the brain can access the entire knowledge. And like we all go and charge our EV, we can go and charge every month in order to add the additional things that I need to learn instead of going through this tough path of learning. I just want to tell you that's the view that the students carry in terms of technology in learning. But coming back to your question on personalization, I agree with Mayank on that one view, that the options that we have on personalization is very, very wide. And how do you zero in Yes, we can use multiple sets of algorithms, but I think we need to look at it in two extremes. One is, yes, we have access to all the options. The second is to narrow down to 2 or 3 ways by which we can infer what the student likes or how we can do it, and try and do it over a period of time. So it's not going to be either or, in my view, but definitely it gives an opportunity. Probably some of the technologies that we have today, which has got the ability to quickly analyze the patterns over a period of time, maybe not just from the student, but similar cohorts, that we can look at it and see how we can drive that, will be an opportunity. We in TCS are doing a significant amount of research in this space. Not giving up yet, Mayank, but definitely we believe that a great opportunity to help the students narrow down the options and learn over a period of time.
Great. And let me quickly switch to the questions that I have got, and I'll follow the order. Raghav, I'll come to you first, and then probably Mohan. Not trying to do any kind of AI simulation who will take which question. I'm just going one after the other. So the first question that I have got: while live streaming platforms like Teams, Zoom were used, quite massively during the pandemic, what are the technologies which are going to make greater impact on quality of higher education in the future? Raghav, over to you. Do you want me to repeat the question?
No, I got that. Thank you. So from what I'm hearing with a lot of university leaders that I interact with, I think you probably need 3-4 types of tech platforms. You need a Zoom or a Teams, because some amount of teaching might continue on a Zoom or Teams. Although in general, for both faculty and students, live teaching on Zoom has been quite stressful. Then you possibly need some kind of an LMS platform to manage everything that's coming together. Third, you need a platform like Coursera, where there is some amount of asynchronous teaching happening as well. And fourth, you probably need a proctoring or an assessment platform. I should say a proctoring platform, where a combination of various kinds of assessments can be delivered. So I would say possibly these 4 types of tech platforms.
Thank you so much, Raghav. So
you spoke
can I
just add to that, Sabyasachi?
Yes, please.
Yeah. So, what I'd like to say is that, Zoom and Teams are actually not educational software. Right? They were created for, video conferencing and for basically like groups communicating. It just so happened that they were readily available when COVID happened, and like everybody started embracing them, right? So we should not be thinking of them as educational software at all. Okay. So, now what is it that can actually help and impact the quality of higher education? Just like, in any industry, the software that really works is what is actually custom made for that industry. In education as well, you actually now have like learning platforms that are purpose built for the higher education sector. For example, if I use our own experience, like the Great Learning Technology Platform, right? It encapsulates all aspects of the education experience, all the way from somebody, coming into the system with an admissions, all the way till them leaving the system with a job in hand. Okay, everything in between is actually very seamlessly integrated, and you can actually track everything that's happening, right? Okay, what is a student actually supposed to do? Are they doing it? Is it happening at the right time? Who are the teachers that they are supposed to learn from? And attending a live class is one aspect of it. Taking an assessment is one aspect of it. Consuming some content and some material is another aspect of it. Doing a project is another aspect of it. Interacting with their classmates is another aspect of it. Working in a team is another aspect of it, right? So all of these are very essential ingredients. Getting feedback, on what their performance, and similarly the teachers getting feedback on how they are doing, the content being reviewed to see can it be better or not, right? These are all the use cases that actually happen in the education process, right? So I think increasingly, education will have to adopt technology platforms that are purpose built for it, that actually improve all aspects of the educational experience, as opposed to just one or the other, right?
Yeah.
So point solutions will never give you the same impact as a holistic solution. On our platform, for example, within a month, into somebody's learning experience, we can predict, is this person going to complete a program or not? Are they at risk of dropping off? Are they at risk of failure? All of that we can do because we track so many aspects of what they are doing and what they are not doing. And because we can predict it, we can intervene proactively, right? And we can, we talked about personalization. Personalization is a vague topic,
Mohan,
right? But it can be offered in a variety of ways if you have an integrated solution.
Yeah, no, Mohan, thanks for the insights. And I think we are talking about the learning platform and the experience that is getting attached to the learning platform, right? And then almost every platform is doing quite a lot of analytics, providing the data points, where the students are falling short, what kind of intervention is needed. And then that's the beauty of technology. I think almost everybody is providing that, and then whoever is not doing that, they will come up and then will provide that kind of, basics, because that's the basic, I call it. Coming quickly to the next question, and then Mayank, if you can answer this, how do you really see the use of AI and VR in the management education? If you please can share some insights.
I think right now, I do believe that usage of VR is quite some, there's some time away, just because of the cost of equipment on the other side is quite prohibitively expensive. And did you include AI in that also, right? Not just VR. So AI, I think we can still get it done. VR comes much later in the alphabetical order, so it is just going to take some time for it to get adopted. But from an AI perspective, right now, even as you look at it, if it is not AR, I'm just talking from an artificial intelligence perspective, there's a lot of data that is getting generated even today, as what even just Mohan said, that look, once a learner comes in, you have a lot of background data. Within 1 month, you capture a lot of information about whether the learner is doing something or not. Those information are very critical for online education specifically, because completion is very important for anyone to sort of achieve the right kind of outcome. Even for the kind of jobs that people are looking for, if you tell us that these are the 15 type of jobs or 3 type of jobs that I'm looking for, platforms today, all platforms that are there in the conversation in the panel today, they have an ability to capture enough information to be able to articulate what kind of job will this person be better suited for. Or even in school education, for that matter, as they're going through this, you can predict which learner will perform better in examination, which learner may not perform better. So from a AI perspective, there are enough use cases. While there are interesting models that have emerged in the ecosystem, both for AR and VR, I just believe from an India market perspective, it is some time away before we see a true adoption of AR and VR. If AR and VR get adopted, a lot of practical hands-on application-led education models can be replicated online. But today, as we speak, I just believe the infrastructure is not fully there for AR and VR, while AI and data science, definitely there's a lot of use cases happening in education right now.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Mayank. And then, Mohan, I'll come to you. There is an interesting question. It's a long question, but if I got it right, what it says that there has been a latest research conducted by Brookings. And the bottom line is that the developers of the so-called educational apps, and who really study how the children, they learn, both these two parties, they are not connecting with each other at all. So your app development is happening without taking into the confidence of the final users. Okay, I believe that is the question which has been asked. What's your view? You are on mute, Mohan.
Yeah. So I agree with that observation, because I think what we have seen so far is in some sense first generation of apps, right? And in the first generation of apps, what is being solved is access. Okay, basically putting content in front of children, putting the application in front of children, getting them to use it. That's the first generation of apps, and that's basically what, if I talk about, in the largest platform in India for children's learning, which is Byju's, right? So Byju's learning app is basically about providing access to content, high quality content, but that everybody can actually use and benefit from, so that you're now not dependent on the quality of your teacher, which varies very widely, so that you can have a standardized base, right? But does it actually take into account how learning happens, and does it take learning science into account? The answer is no. because the first problem that you're solving is how do you get quality content into the hands of everybody as cost effectively and as reliably, as robustly as possible, right? So that's the first generation. But of course, we recognize that this is a problem that has to be solved. So now there is research going on where there are actually learning scientists, psychologists, sociologists, all of these kinds of folks and their inputs are actually coming into the learning process. For example, the Byju's group has set up a learning lab and an innovation center in London, where there are very, very good people that have actually been brought together to precisely do this. So when you see the next generation of apps that come out, they're actually going to be much, much more sophisticated about this. Where there will be handles that will be there, where experience for different kids will be different. It's not going to be the same experience for everyone. So I think we just have to give it some more time where we get to the second generation. The first generation was about access. The second generation is going to be much more about effectiveness and personalization and learning outcomes. All of those kinds of things are going to come in the second generation.
Yeah, I fully agree, Mohan. And I'm sure the tech companies, it will evolve. And most importantly, it is all about the market and who is creating this market. It is the final consumers, right? It is the students. If they don't like an app, if they don't like some platform, they'll dump it.
They won't use it.
Correct. Yeah, it's as simple as that. And then things will evolve. Things will evolve. Now, I think we are almost on the, almost on top of the hour. I'm sure things will change over a period of time. The collaboration between academia, industry, edutech, companies, it is just going to intensify, and it is going to be a very interesting, thing to happen in the future. And I'll be looking forward to see how edtech companies probably are going to evolve as we go along. Maybe in 2047, when we'll be celebrating the century of independence, how India is going to respond to the need, and where do we actually take our knowledge level for the real consumers to excel in the global market. So while we'll be deliberating, debating, and contributing to this, my sincere thanks to all of you. And once again, Aima, thank you so much for inviting me and all my panel members to be part of this discussion. Over to you for the concluding remark. Thank you so much. Thanks, everyone.